What's up, everyone? Welcome to my shop. Got a little bit of exciting news tonight. Mark is launching his second physical product that I invented. And we're not making a big deal about the launch. It's real niche and it's something that we both like, but we're not sure if we're going to sell a whole lot. So we're not really making a whole big deal about the product launch and a big marketing effort on this one. So this video for me is going to be more about the evolution of the product, how it went from idea to an actual market-ready finished product. So to start with, I thought I'd show you the actual video that I made and sent to Mark that got him interested in the product in the first place. So here's that. So my first idea is a space-saving concept centered around large stationary planers and specifically the area above them. So stationary planers have return rollers that you use to pass the wood back after you've done a pass on the planer, and that's handy, but it makes the space above unusable. So I came up with this tool that will allow a platform to be put above the planer while still preserving the return roller functionality. So to install this, I first take the return rollers off, and then my 4 cast pieces each have a hole that allows it to bolt to the holes that the return roller spun in. And then they have a second hole just slightly above to remount the return rollers and keep them above any of the mounting hardware for the cast pieces. So with those installed, I can mount a shelf above the return rollers with a good 3-inch spacing, so that only very, very large pieces of lumber wouldn't fit. Now when I tried this out, I was really happy with it, and I think that the return rollers are even more useful after this modification, because with 2 rollers just a foot apart, if you have a 9-foot board, it's kind of tippy. You have to really get the piece of wood centered before you let go of it. With this, you just kind of toss it through, and if it goes too far, the upper platform just kind of catches it and keeps it in place. So I see myself using the return rollers more after I make this modification. And there's a whole lot of stuff you could put on top of that. I think I'm going to put my scroll saw up there. It's about the right height for standing scroll saw work, but you could do clamps or a tool chest or whatever. It's just an extra platform to do something with. And we could all use that. So this cast solution worked. I mean, it worked for my planer, but there were 2 problems with it. So first of all, it mounts to the outside of the existing brackets on the planer, and then this distance here from this face to this face compensates for the body of the bracket on the planer. The problem is the brackets of different brands are different thicknesses, so there's no way to set one dimension here and have that work for everyone's planer. So that specific design wasn't going to work. And the second thing was the fact that this is a cast piece. Now, these I just found somebody local who could sand cast a few of these for me. It was no big deal. I mean, they were much more expensive than you'd need to pay to have a real product on the market, but that's fine for prototyping. But I found that in the US, all of this capability, or nearly all of it, has moved overseas, and the only people that do casting in the States, it's just super expensive. It's going to be prohibitively expensive. So if we were going to cast this, it would have to go overseas. Now, Made in America is not just a good marketing ploy for us. You can get things made cheaper overseas, but you really have to manage it. I mean, you might have to spend a couple weeks in China getting the specs right and working with your vendor and making sure, you know, everything's fine. And this is just me and Mark. Neither of us has time to jet off to China if there's some kind of a problem. We really need somebody in the States to be able to make things. And casting just wasn't going to work. So what we ended up doing instead is finding a company here in the States that could CNC laser cut and stamp bends into a 3/16 piece of steel to do the exact same thing as the cast piece did. Now, this is a highly automated process, and in highly automated processes, the US is much more competitive. So we could get it at a decent rate here in the States, and it's actually locally here in Denver. So if there's any problem, we can drive up there, meet with people, whatever. It's much, much easier to manage. And you'll also notice that this mounts to the inside of the existing bracket, so that the thickness, if this is an inch thick or a quarter of an inch thick, it doesn't matter. You'll just have a little bit of extra bolt here, which is no big deal. So the fact that these are variable thickness and different brands doesn't affect the product's ability to work with different brands. And lastly, I like the fact that we have an oil impregnated bushing contacting the rolling section of the return rollers. That's nicer than what we're going to end up with this guy, just contacting aluminum or steel, whatever we made this out of. Now, of course, we could have put a bushing in this thing, but bushings is fairly expensive, and even made overseas, this would have been more expensive than this piece right here, so probably wouldn't have had anything to spare for the bushing. So really just a couple extra insights and thoughts on how to do this, but with this design we were dead in the water and almost dropped the product, and with this design we're able to sell it for $29.99 and have it made in the US. So those small insights can make a big difference. So you see that I mounted my scroll saw on the platform above the return rollers. Still allows me to use them for their intended purpose. And I think most people will probably want to use this as maybe a 1 or 2 tiered lumber rack, and that's fine. I thought I'd just do this. Not so much because I need the floor space, more to just demonstrate that for smaller shops, if you want to have the big stationary planer and still make use of that space, it can be a useful thing. A couple more points. Smaller lunchbox planers, non-floor standing planers, don't even have return rollers, so obviously this product is not going to work with them. There's no way to make it work with them. And since this is a soft launch, I'm not even going to tell you where you can find the product to purchase. If you want it bad enough, I'm sure you'll hunt it down. This was more about just kind of telling the story of the product development and sharing that behind the scenes with you. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.